My mum died unexpectedly, suddenly, and after a very long fight and a very long story, I eventually got a second autopsy and toxicology tests because I suspected something had happened. And I'm an experienced nurse by background, with a care of the elderly background. And she'd gone into hospital with dehydration, which was from neglect at home with home care and in a situation of domestic abuse. And that's complicated, but she was on a court of protection welfare order and delayed getting into hospital because of lockdown, because I couldn't get to her. This was in between May and July 2020. And so a delayed admission into hospital with dehydration, actively treated for dehydration, recovering normally well with IV fluids. And then something catastrophic happened, and she developed sudden vomiting out of nowhere, no reason for sudden vomiting, aspiration pneumonia, and I literally watched her drown and die, and I suspected that something had happened out of the blue. And after a long fight with the coroner, I eventually obtained a second post-mortem because I didn't think the first one was anywhere near a good description, accurate cause of death. And toxicology revealed midazolam and fentanyl in her blood, and there was no documentation for any reason for anyone to have either prescribed those drugs or given them. So she was given illegally two controlled drugs by someone in the hospital, and that it wasn't in the controlled drug record book. We dragged them into an inquest. Coroner just didn't know what to do, completely out of her depth, couldn't bring herself to criticise the NHS, couldn't bring herself to see that aspiration pneumonia was caused by the hospital and probably triggered by the two drugs. I had stacks of expert witnesses on my side, and the entire system shut down. Surrey police refused to investigate. The coroner didn't make them investigate. They all tickled around the edges. No one was prepared to recognise that this was, a shipman scenario, basically. And I caught them because I insisted on toxicology. If I hadn't done that, that evidence would have gone to cremation. And
Okay.
it just makes you wonder how many other cases are there out there where they weren't even talking about end of life protocols.